Good morning once again. You are watching a Sunrise at Sea and you're right in time for wellness this morning. In studio, I have a very special gentleman, Mr. Kakinda Adrian Ivan, a counseling psychologist from Uganda Counseling Association this morning. Good morning, sir. How are you?
A very good morning, Sandra. I'm very glad and happy to be here today.
It's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I always start my talks by congratulating Ugandans for having made it up today. It's not easy.
Yeah, true.
It's quite challenging out there. Just like Sandra said, I'm a counseling psychologist. So we are going to talk about mental health and counseling.
Exactly, this morning. As kids head on back to school this morning, there's a lot that we have to take into account. Remember, they have been away from the classroom for 2 years, and this is quite a new normal to them, as I must say. So, sir, we have observed increased levels of stress and anxiety as kids head back to school. How can teachers help them through this transition as they go back to in-person classes?
All right, literally, when COVID-19 attacked the whole world, children and students were left aside because for them, they weren't physically infected very much by COVID.
Yes.
But it's one of the biggest population that has been affected by COVID. And in one way or the other, it has been mental health. So mental health, not only stress or anxiety, but some have gone into depression. That long stint of low mood. So depression, some have ended up committed suicide. Some have ended up using self-destructive behaviors to cope with the situations of mental health, like getting into addiction. So some have become addictive, and it has been very disastrous to their lives. So as students are going back to school, it's quite very pertinent to have such discussion. I'm very glad because we need to prepare them mentally. So initially it was a parent's kind of responsibility to look after their children's mental health, but it has not happened in any way because parents are up and down, running up and down. They don't have time for their children because they're trying to make ends meet. So it goes back to now that the school's administration, the school's administrator, teachers, now the immediate people who are going to intervene, who are going to interface these children when it comes to mental health. So what you've asked, how are teachers going to handle this? It will start by teachers themselves, because you cannot give what you don't have. You as a teacher, you need to ask yourself, are you mentally stable? Because some teachers are parents too. So you cannot teach your children, yet your children are still sitting at home because you've not been working, leave alone the government teachers. But the private teachers from the private schools have not been working. So meaning they are also they are not mentally stable. But we expect them to offer this service of education to our children, and they have been 2 years off the work. So they have been using this thing of okweya. This Luganda word okweya in Kampala and in Uganda. So they have been hustling around. So meaning teachers must first look after themselves before looking after teachers, because we expect teachers, they're suffering from burnout. They have stress themselves. The way you perceive situations which are demanding, a stress is a natural response of the body. How you perceive something, you feel like it's overwhelming to you, it's what's called stress. Then anxiety, fear of the uncertainty. We don't know what's happening tomorrow. And then they have also depression. They have been victims of gender-based violence. So they have a lot to first iron out, which we were opting for in the first week before the schools reopen. I do guess education institutions which are serious, they took this serious last week, preparing their teachers to deal with the burnout so that they can settle. Last week, I was talking with a teacher who didn't want to go back to school because he was saying, the business I'm doing after this pandemic is yielding more than the teaching. So why do you expect me to go back and teach?
And that's another thing, because teachers, schools are going to be understaffed, and the teachers that are going to be there might get overwhelmed as well. Going back, it's been long for them, as you've said. But let's go back to those behavioral changes in children as they have been away from the classroom for 2 years. And as we know, being away from the classroom, this is one of the things that many parents were facing during the pandemic, is homeschooling. They said kids and even young adults, they don't have the same attention span as being in a classroom. So one of the things, and let's talk about anxiety, the fear of the unknown. Do you think that another way for managing this is the assessment method of having exams? Should we just assess the children and let them go to the next class? Because this is what is stressing them out. You haven't been in the classroom, and then you're thinking of exams. Exams are already stressful even when you're in school every day. So you can imagine.
If examinations can stress the mature people, what about the children?
Absolutely.
So you are true, Sandra. I think we need to drift a bit from the normal bit of examining students, the piling of notes. It's good the Ministry of Education has helped to see how best they can come up with a curriculum. So they have changed a bit. They have now included things which are very critical for a student to know, which is good because it helps in piling off the pressure from the students. But one thing the teachers must be knowing that this is not business as usual. So meaning they have to plan ahead, not only to put a lot of pressure on this student. So they have to plan ahead. Secondly, they have to have empathy, feel for the students. It's not their own making, so you can't come with your anger, you can't come with your, strictness. That strictness, yes, some students are stubborn, some students have learned some dubious behaviors. Some have learned to take drugs and substances. Some are sexually active. I'm talking about adolescents. So some have been touching money. So they may come and they feel like they're dons at school, so they need to show. Some have been engaging sexually, though parents don't want to listen to this, but it's the reality down there. So however much students have these problems, we as teachers, we must be the immediate parents now. So to handle these students, another thing, we have to talk to them and show them how this pandemic has ravaged the entire globe and how they are going to take soaps into, even soaps bring anxiety. The social distancing brings anxiety because children are used to, they are social beings. So you tell them, no, don't touch your friend, don't do this, sit, put on the mask. There are some people who are asthmatic, some people have breathing problems. So teachers need to bring that into a reality, calm the situation down, manage the situation, because we are going to have a lot of behavior outbreaks.
That's true.
Our children fighting each other because of the anger, because of the anxiety, because of the stress.
They might lash out, and that's what kids do. But I'd like to take you back a little bit, sir, to talk about the kids who have been sexually active. Now, when we went into lockdown 2 years ago, 15 million children were out of school. They were not going to school. And out of those 15 million, 90,000 girls were pregnant. And the president did say that come January, these girls are supposed to go back to school. January is here. Are these girls going back to school? But besides that point, clearly they are going to face stigma. After you've been pregnant and you're going back to school. And this really takes a toll on your mental health. So how do you think teachers and parents alike can mitigate this to make sure that they continue with their education?
I think it starts with our culture. It has a cultural element. For example, in the central region of this country, whereby people usually think that when you get pregnant, your life is upside down, you are cast to the family. So I think we're trying to change the notion, the narrative that, okay, it's not good to get pregnant when you're a student. But anyway, when you get pregnant, what happens next? Is your life going to stop there? So it starts with the parents to push these children back to school, to show them that, okay, you've dumped yourself down, but you can act like a tennis ball. You can bounce back. This is a sign of resilience. We need to start preaching to our children. Then they go to school. It's good that government has tried to give them a leeway to go back to school. It's very good. That's why we always advocate for schools to have mental health professionals. You can have a mental health professional at a full pay or part-time. Uganda has almost, for example, Uganda Counseling Association has almost 3,000 registered counselors on all levels, from Arua to Karamoja to Kasese to the central part of this country. So we have counselors. Some schools, I'm very happy with the schools in the western region. Each school is having a professional counselor to look after this person here.
Yes.
Because they are going through a lot. They need to be calmed down. They need to refocus. And this is not something like a drug, a one-day thing. It's a process to manage this bullying, this stigma. So you need a professional to be around to look after this child, talk to this child, go through some counseling sessions, some therapeutic,
to prepare them.
Yes, prepare them, prepare their mindset to rejuvenate their energies, and then they continue with education.
So yes, sir, what you're saying, also apart from that, do you think that it is now really, really important, and in my view, I think this is very important, that all the schools should have a counselor to counsel the students, and just not the usual, the nurse at the dispensary and the sick bay, because mental health is at the forefront.
It's amazing. The Minister of Education, by then it was 1992, I think it was Honorable Amanya Mushega, they came up with a white paper that each and every school must have a professional counselor, from the kindergartens to the primary to the secondary to the tertiary.
Yes.
So the white paper is there, but it has not been yet implemented.
Yes.
And we are advocating for that as an association, to have these professionals in schools. Yes. Now, some schools have taken it, and when you look at the behaviors of their students, it's quite different from the schools which don't have. Yes. Because a teacher is not a professional counselor. I train teachers at Chambogo University, whereby we teach them a course unit of guidance and counseling. You know, course unit. It cannot help you to become a professional. Yeah. But there are these professionals who have studied counseling for 2 years. They are behavior specialists who, because the work we are doing personally, Sandra, it would have been for parents. But you look at how the economic landscape of our country, parents are looking for money.
That's true.
Parents today don't have time for parenting, meaning it's now onto the counselors to teach the life skills. Because yes, teachers are busy, they have a tight schedule, they have a tight curriculum, they have to teach geography, the director of studies are on their neck, you have to complete the syllabus, so it's a syllabus time. So they have no time for the life skills of children, which life skills are very crucial for this person to develop, because we develop by learning life skills. So I call on the school administrators, the school head teachers, if you cannot, because the budget is very tight, for example, they may say that, but we've been cautioning parents, if a school at this time doesn't have a professional counselor, it's not a school. Because look, for example, in Africa, in Europe, schools have these professionals. Yes, in the university, we employ almost over 10 professional counselors to deal with the students, because we know life is not easy. It's a bumpy road. So we need people to manage us when we are breaking down, when we know what. So to answer you, Sandra, it would have been done by yesterday. For a school, a professional school, a school calling itself a school, to have a professional who wakes up early in the morning to deal with the behavior challenges of students, because they are going through a lot. And it's the generation we are trying to incubate for the next generation. So if we don't handle them very well, they are prone to break. And you see how students are breaking. Yeah. So you see, that's why we are living in a very, very futile kind of environment. Relationships are breaking down, then those are the children. Drugs and substance, we are struggling with addiction problems in this country. So it's too much.
I agree.
That would be one of the solutions. So the schools that have taken it into consideration, thank you very much. You are doing a great job.
Well, you had that from the Mr. himself, Mr. Kakinda Adrian Ivan. He's a counseling psychologist from Uganda Counseling Association. And please, teachers and parents alike, Please help your children go through this transition as they head on back to school today. Well, that was all we had on Wellness this morning with me, Sandra Cobb. But do not go anywhere because we have quite a program lined up for you. Don't blink.